The year has just started, and we've already got one of the best figures that I've had in a long time. One of the best entries in Hasbro's Marvel Legends line, if not the best Spider-Man that they've ever done in their Marvel Legends lines ever so far. Hasbro, not Toy Biz, Hasbro. But I do think in some ways it does eclipse some of the Toy Biz Spider-Man figures as well. It doesn't have as much articulation as their most articulated Spider-Man, but my God, the articulation he does have, it works perfectly, and it makes you wonder why you even needed all that other articulation in the first place. This figure is immaculate. I can't sing its praises enough, and you know me, I've been really hard on Hasbro. Shit, I'm hard on figures in general, you know? And this is easily one of the best, if not the best Spider-Man I own, and the best Spider-Man, in my opinion, that we've received from an American company thus far. Shit, in some ways, it's just the best Spider-Man they've released so far. Let me get into the details. What's up, my ninjas? And man, I am excited. It's like the old days. It's as if Hasbro actually listened to me. They saw my review, the one I did about the Amazing Spider-Man 1 figure, the ultra posable, super posable, whatever, and they said, man, he's right, we fucked up. So we're gonna undo everything wrong that we did and do it right with the Amazing Spider-Man 2 figure. They literally got a second chance to do things the way they should have done it from the giddy up, and I love this figure. It's like I said before, it's easily the best Spider-Man figure that we've gotten thus far. I did find the Captain America series, but I'm going to review those another time. I was really lucky with them. But as you can see, paint, sculpt, articulation, they finally got it right. Finally. And it even eclipses some of the movie figures, which you know that, in my opinion, the Spider-Man 2 version of the movie figure was it was the pinnacle of articulation for a Spider-Man figure. You know, 1 and 2 were perfect, but 2 was the pinnacle. And from head to toe, this new one beats it. There is my Spider-Sense Spider-Man. That's one of the early ones. I had the first 2 Marvel Legends, well, the ones that became Marvel Legends, the black suit and the regular red and blue suit Spider-Man. And then I also found this one, you know, a little while, maybe it was before that. But anyway, this one had a gimmick where his eyes lit up when you flick this little, his head would turn, his eyes light up when you flick this little switch in his back. His fingers, he had the thwipping fingers, they broke off. And while I was playing with them or something, where he fell off a shelf and they broke, so I cut off that whole fist and whole, you know, thwippy hand and put on a fist. He needs a fist. This is the movie 1 figure from Sam Raimi's Spider-Man. Love this figure. It's the perfect blend, in my opinion, of articulation and a good sculpt. I played with it all the time. Put him in my Avengers setups. He was like my go-to Spider-Man, just because it was the perfect amount, you know what I mean, of posability. Next to him is the Spider-Man 2 movie figure, which, in my opinion, up to this point, was the best Spider-Man figure that we've ever received. It's the best. Jeez, that's gonna be the issue with this. Even though it's the best figure, it has the best articulation, has a really good sculpt, really good paint, he has too many joints, and he tends to buckle under his weight. Now he's crying. Get over it. Get over it. Man up. Anyway, he tends to buckle under his weight because he's got too many joints. Some would say, like I said, it's perfect because it's a lot for Spidey, but I mean, he's got an ab crunch and a diaphragm joint. Why? Just make the ab crunch bend further. Make it, you know, the actual bend further. You see, he's got articulated fingers, he's got double jointed knees, elbows, segmented neck, kind of like the SH Figuarts. I mean, he was dope. Way better than the Amazing Spider-Man ultra posable, you know, dick in your mouth figure that completely couldn't do the simple things that it was supposed to do. You know, it had joints in places where it should have given it articulation and the ability to pose, and you can't really pose him past a certain point, which makes him more of a kid's figure and less of a collector figure for those of us who've been collecting, you know, Marvel Legends for a long time. I don't know. I don't understand how they were even able to think in that meeting. Someone was able to actually spit out the words ultra posable. That Spider-Man's more posable. I mean, he's got what, 12 points of articulation, maybe 11, and he's more posable. I can do more with him, with his ball-socketed hips and, you know, ball-socket shoulders and everything. But, you know, we're talking about this figure where they got it all right. This is Hasbro actually paying attention to the things that worked with all the previous Spider-Man figures and putting it in this figure from head to toe. So he's got the ankle pivots. He's got ball-socketed hips with the T crotch instead of the Y crotch that they were doing before. And a thing I noticed that no one else pointed out is that his suit is embossed. The webbing on the suit is not embossed. I'm sorry. It's actually, I'll get to that later. But my gripe, look at those pegs in his elbows. They're just like the Thundercats figures from Bandai. Hasbro always does this shit, you know? They do so many things right, and then they take a step backwards. It's almost like what they did with the Build-A-Figure. Here you have this line that's amazing with all these newly tooled figures, and then they give us, you know, a reused body for our Build-A-Figure for the Hulk from the Avengers, you know, movie series. But here it's like, why? You painted the ones on his legs, but you don't paint the ones on his elbows? I mean, come on. But whatever. And the other gripe, like I started saying before, is that instead of embossing his webbing, it's etched. Etching is the opposite of embossing. Embossing, it's raised. Ignore it for now and focus on things that I like about the figure. The eyes. Look at all the eyes on these guys. Look at those eyes. Specifically that guy, because they're comic accurate. And then look at this movie figure. Comic accurate eyes. The Felix the Cat eyes. The big expressive Spider-Man eyes that make him look the opposite of all the dark and gritty heroes out there. It's another reason why I love this figure. It's the closest we've ever had in a film to making him, you know, cartoon or comic accurate, but at the same time there are movie elements on him that make him stand apart from all the other figures. And to me, that's amazing. No pun intended, Jesus. But I love the fact that we've got a movie symbol, and as you can see, the lazy paint job kind of doesn't make the symbol pop the way it should, because they did that dry brush crap over their you know, etched, you know, opposite of embossed webbing. I keep going back to it, I have to, but you know, they should have just followed. I mean, look at that. They even painted all the webbing silver. I mean, how the hell do you do that? That looked like it'd be a pain in the ass, but whatever. Hasbro did so much right this time, though, that I will give them a pass for doing the opposite of what they're supposed to do, because their end result looks, in my opinion, it still looks good. I mean, even the symbol should be, you know, matte black, and it should pop. It shouldn't be so ashy looking, you know. But you see him standing next to these other guys. He looks just as good from head to toe. The paint job, the articulation, everything works. And guess what? We're going to get into articulation right now. So articulation. This is where you can see it. Just me posing him like that, you can already see this guy can get down. So much about him puts him at the top of the list for the best Spider-Man we've gotten. I put him next to the movie figures that count when it comes to posability, because, you know, that's the main gimmick or the main thing that, you know, a Spider-Man figure should be able to do. It should be able to be posed any way that you can think of, because he's all about twisting up into different poses and doing stuff. And as you can see, he can assume the same poses that the movie 1 figure can do, and he can do even more because he's got a couple more joints than him, which is pretty cool, you know, considering Toy Biz got so much right the first time. You know what I mean? Because that was their first Spider-Man movie figure, and they got so much right. It was the perfect medium, in my opinion. You know, like, he was posable, playable, but once again, look at the embossed webbing. Sorry, I keep on jumping back to it, but that's embossed. And the other one is etched, embossed and etched. See, etched on him and embossed on the other guy. I still can't believe no one pointed that out. I'm sorry, but I had to point that out. But anyway, as you can see, any pose that I make the movie Spider-Man take, the Amazing Spider-Man can do the same thing. But because he has a couple more joints, mainly the shoulder joints, he can do things like that. You see, he can kind of cock his arms back further. He can kind of stoop down a little bit more, and that ab crunch is perfect, which is the thing that the movie 1 figure was lacking. He didn't really have an ab crunch. He had that corny diaphragm joint that I wish they would just stop using altogether. It doesn't look good on female figures. It doesn't work so much on, you know, male figures. Just ab crunch away. Give them a cut at the waist so they can twist. Call it a day. Stop trying to fake the funk. But as you can see, you'll see that the pose that I'm putting, I've put the Amazing Spider-Man in, the movie figure can't do it. Not exactly. He's lacking some of those joints to allow him to do that. Even the way his hip joints are cut into the crotch, there's like an upward curve, you know, that was scooped out so that you can make his thigh actually kind of point up a little bit more when you have him in these squatting positions. And the movie figure can't do it. You can see that's the best he can do. He can't even lean forward enough to mimic this almost like Spider-Sense turn-ish pose. You know what I mean? Spider-Sense-ish turn. See, there we go again with him just buckling. I hate that about this figure. He's got so many joints that you have to make everything work properly together in order for him to actually hold a pose the way you want him to. But once you get him there, like so, it's a beautiful figure. Beautiful figure. The good old days, man. But as you're going to see, the Amazing Spider-Man can do the same pose. He even doesn't have, like I said before, as many joints. He's missing certain joints that you see this one taking advantage of. But he has the majority of the same joints, so he can actually pull off some of those same poses. And they kind of look better with this guy because less joints mean the sculpt holds up a little bit better. And if you put articulation in the right places, you don't sacrifice sculpt for articulation. You see what I mean? He's kind of in a little bit of a kind of the Luffy version of it, or Luffy version of it from One Piece. God, I fucking hate that show, but I have to admit that that pose is kind of, the way, you know, they drew Luffy was pretty cool. But look at it. He looks right. And you've seen Spider-Man in that pose so many times, but he looks right. And I know I did it kind of quickly so you can see that his feet aren't planted because he doesn't have the toe joint. But I never really dug the toe joint anyway. And it looks decent, you know, still. Imagine if he was like on a light post or something, you know, with something with a curve. He could stand on it and it wouldn't be a problem, you know. And that's essentially, that's the way you should be able to pose your Spider-Man. Every Spider-Man should be able to do this. There's no exception. There should be no exception to the rule. Swinging poses, jumping poses. You know how Spider-Man always assumes those cool poses as he lets go of one web line and jumps and shoots a web line and grabs onto the next. What they call it, web trick chaining. That's what you used to do in the game in Spider-Man 2. You remember when you kept flipping and you keep pressing the jump, he would flip and be like woohoo and all that shit. Those poses are the bread and butter of you owning a Spider-Man figure, and he can do all that stuff. He can do all that stuff. These joints are really nice and tight, which is something I'll give props to the Toy Biz one. I've had that figure since it came out, and that was what, 2007, and that figure's in good shape. He still, you know, holds poses pretty well. So does this one though, and it's brand new. This is what it's all about. This is what all that articulation does. It gives you the ability to get those comic accurate poses where you twist him up and he looks like he's in the middle of an action sequence. You know what I mean? That's what it's all about. That's why this one was on top for so long. But let's move over to the Amazing Spider-Man. Look at him. Like he's holding on to the web, or he just let go of the web. He's swinging. He let go of the web and he's about to swing, flip, twist, whatever, you know, contort, and then shoot out another web and swing from that one. I mean, look at how amazing, I keep saying amazing, and I'm not trying to be funny, but look at how active he looks, how dynamic he looks, you know? these poses are poses that you've seen him in the comics before, and you wonder while you're watching the comics or reading the comics or even watching the movies, how can you contort in this kind of way? Well, when you have this kind of a figure, you can see it. And, you know, this is the tip of the iceberg as far as poses go. But this is what puts them, those two, this is what it's all about. This is why this is easily the best Spider-Man figure we've gotten to date. Toy Biz finally eclipsed, Hasbro finally eclipsed Toy Biz and gave us a Spider-Man that's ridiculously posable, but well sculpted. And you don't lose that much. I know the butterfly joint is kind of ugly, but you don't lose that much with those joints. It works. It works. You need to get this if you like Spider-Man. It's that simple. Plain and simple. So, sculpt, articulation, he takes it. It's simple. It's the best Spider-Man figure ever, as far as, 6-inch scale American figures go. And I think he even looks a little bit better than like the Mafex Spider-Man. So listen, just go out and get this guy. It's that simple. Go out and get him. I am STRYDENT. This has been the review on the Marvel Legends Infinite Series Amazing Spider-Man movie figure. You owe it to yourself to pick up this figure. It's so worth it. Peace outside, my ninjas.